As soon as I was tasked with creating as much content as possible to show I want to keep my place on this media course, I knew I wanted to animate a fight scene. I'd been wanting to do this for a long time, and had several plans but never attempted to tackle it head on. I gave myself this chance to go ahead and try it, even filming myself doing fight scene actions to use as references for the animation. I watched clips from animated series like RWBY and Tome to see how things tend to flow and look in general, especially focusing on how Tome frames fight scenes, being a 2D animated series. The next step I took was to design a character to be on one side of the fight, and while choreographing the fight in my head, I decided it would be a young battle-ready girl with gauntlets. Something I wanted to work into the fight was roulette wheels on the gauntlets, which would change certain properties and aid her in battle. However, after drawing and animating a few frames of animation, I wasn't happy with what I'd achieved up to that point, and took a break from the project. But my time escaped me, and I never got the chance to go back. But I would definitely like to revisit it in a more refined, planned manner in the future. Something else I wanted to tackle over the 2 weeks off was the title sequence. And being as I've recently gotten very into Doctor Who, I decided that's what I wanted to do. Doctor Who's title sequences have always been some of my favourites in television history, and I wanted to take a crack at it. First, I thought about what I like in a Doctor Who title sequence, as they've varied a lot over the years. From the abstract, technically incredible approach through the 60s and 70s,
It's amazing how they could do that.
to the Starfields of the 80s,
Now this one I love.
even ending things off with one of the world's first CGI title sequences, followed decades later by the very famous 2005 title Vortex.
Come on, you've seen this one at some point in your life. Everyone has.
And its closely related cousins in its wake, right up to the return to the abstract in 2018. The variety is astounding, and they each have their own charm. But while the modern era's Time Vortex sequences are my favourite, especially the 2010 to 2012 one, I did also know for certain I'd put a twist on it. I wanted my title sequence to begin inside the famous TARDIS. So using 2D assets from various sources, as well as a cameo from one of my best friends, my first draft has the camera pull away from the TARDIS console and then exit the ship entirely before it flies off into the Time Vortex, all while playing the 2010 Murray Gold arrangement of the iconic theme. I liked this, but I thought I could do much better. So I got to work. I created a brand new logo and got to working on my own arrangement of the Doctor Who theme. The first draft is very rough, and I'm only including it here for the sake of showing my progress, as I don't recommend actually listening to it. It's not the best. However, giving myself time and listening more to some of my favourite renditions of the theme, I love that bit. I worked it into something I really enjoy listening back to over and over. My new version had some of its own flair, like a beautiful choir, and also cherry-picked some of my favourite parts from other arrangements, like part of the 2010 to 2013 theme's exclusive intro, as well as a little riff at the end from the 2014 theme. This, alongside a 2018 theme like Deep Bass, which I intended to sound somewhat like a spaceship's alarm, give it much more character. Then when it came time to making the video to go with it, I scoured the internet for a more effective way to show off the TARDIS interior. I looked for interior shots from the actual show, which are hard to come by when you don't want shots that include people. 3D models I could download and film inside of, or any kind of fan-made TARDIS interior at all. Then I struck gold. A YouTube user by the name of Theta Sigma had created a beautiful custom TARDIS interior video with different camera angles, shots of the console lighting up, and even leaving through the doors. It was perfect for my project. While editing, I even noticed that for a few seconds, some of the lights powering on were exactly in time with the sound elements I took from the 2010 theme. It went together perfectly. Then, I used a beautiful abstract starry void background and laid a TARDIS gif on it, flying it through into the distance. Then, with a lens flare transition, we see a nebula and a dusty space explosion of sorts, which reveals my logo, of which I'm very proud. I even laid a copy of this logo onto itself with a screen blending option, wave warp effect, and a Gaussian blur. Is that how you pronounce it? Gaussian? Gaussian? I don't know. To give the logo a mystical plasma effect, which I pulled off really well. Upon uploading this video to over 170 views in just a few days, I gained some feedback. First off, 11 likes and 2 dislikes. Not too bad in all honesty. I was left a very nicely written comment, which talked about how they were a big fan of my arrangement, however, criticised the fact that my visuals were, for the most part, too bright and vivid for the dark direction I took with the music. I personally feel the TARDIS interior works well, feeling large, otherworldly, and dark until the lights are switched on. Though in retrospect, the starry void I chose could have been replaced with something else. I'm now thinking some sort of dark, creepy time vortex, possibly similar to the show's current, almost granite-esque vortex. This is the main thing I would change about the visuals, as I'm very happy with everything else. As for the music, I've been given a long message with feedback from a friend of mine, who's studying music theory at university, and plans to be a film score composer. He also happens to be a very big Doctor Who fan, which is probably why he put so much effort into his critique, and I appreciate it.